So, welcome everybody. This is the Pankumenta Talks with Contemporary Artists podcast. And today, my great guest in this virtual studio is Bálint Banyo, one of my oldest and greatest childhood friend, who is currently learning in Vienna, uh, jazz piano and music history. And today we are going to talk a little bit about how creating music and existing as an artist during the time of quarantine was for him. And let's get down to business. Hello, Bálint. How are you feeling today?
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. I'm fine, thanks. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to have this conversation with you.
Hmm. That's very nice. It's not a very beautiful weather outside, but at least I
No, it's
think
not.
the listeners will get a little sense of how this shady live weather, what was above us in the previous few weeks, might have or might haven't influenced you in your work. So, first of all, I am wondering, how did you come to piano, and what do you think? What is the most important aspects of your background which led you to jazz
Mm.
piano and working with music?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think first of all, um, I have just really loved music since I was a little kid, and over time, this passion has become more and more. So it has become bigger and bigger, and I was more and more attracted uh, to music. So partly the whole thing happened naturally, and um, yeah, I think if I take the question more philosophically, so like
Mm-hmm.
what does it mean to be a musician or aspiring to be a musician? Uh, it's really interesting to think about what do I, as somebody who's living in the Europe of the 21st century, has to do with jazz music, for example, uh, which is basically an American music. Mm,
Uh, that's that's very that's very interesting. Also, because as far as I understand, being a musician is reaching for you far further than sitting front of a piano. So
yeah, that's
maybe
right.
like, being a musician is a kind of lifestyle for you. But if you have like
Yeah,
anything to
totally.
add to this, I would be very curious.
Mm. Yeah, I think uh, what I think of when I say that I learn jazz piano or I'm interested in jazz, I don't necessarily think of the musical style itself. So
Hmm.
people tend to think about, or there's a certain uh, type of music or a certain period or age that comes to mind when one thinks of jazz. But I would say it's more like an approach to
Hmm.
music and how we approach. I would say even life, or
Hmm.
so it's really a way of living too, or it should be. Mm,
Hmm.
and
So,
this, so the basic concept of jazz is improvisation and creating music in the moment. Uh,
hmm.
so in the end, it doesn't have to be um, linked with a certain musical style. It can be inspired by virtually any kind of music, like
Mm-hmm.
Hungarian folk music too, or Mozart or the Beatles. It doesn't have to be blues or American music.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. Also because as I'm currently working on my final essays in my university, I was reading an essay not so far ago where one of the very great author Bell Hooks is talking about democratic education and how democratic education is about being fully present in the moment. And as far as I understand, when you are creating music or creating art, you also try to work with the experiences and moments which that are surrounding you in our reality. And this is there is no possibility for separating the musician self from the self who is living in this crazy world.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Um, yeah, I think um, playing an instrument is really so. For example, the piano or the guitar or the trumpet is nothing more than really an instrument. So a tool uh,
Mm-hmm.
that that can be used for um, yeah uh, for expressing yourself
Mm-hmm.
and really use that as an extension of yourself.
Mm-hmm. So then what you are doing as an artist has this relation to your personal life, maybe. So do you have any um significant memory where you can recall that something happened to you and then it manifested into an art piece or a change of artistic approach to music?
Hmm, it's an interesting question. Yeah, first, I would say that I don't consider myself a professional musician yet, rather than a student or someone who is aspiring to be an artist. And so currently, I'm spending a lot of time with practicing, which is actually expanding and cultivating my musical toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, of course, especially when I'm composing a piece, it can be heavily influenced by certain moment or a certain event of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, but it's not necessarily so, or not necessarily uh, that clear. So the connection
Mm-hmm.
is not always that clear.
Sure. However, I feel that there is another side of this coin. On one hand, of course, being influenced by everything that is happening around, but at the same time, as an artist, you also have the capability of influencing people. So, have you
Yeah,
ever
totally.
think about how you as an artist can have or also want to have an influence on people? And at this point, if there is anything that has particularly changed since the new corona situation, I would be very interested to hear about that. So, welcome back, everybody. In the second part of our interview, we are going to continue with the question of whether an artist in during these very difficult times of corona crisis can or should have an influence on their audience. My partner and my The one who I'm having the conversation with is Bálint Banyo, one of my oldest and greatest friends. Welcome back.
Hi, everybody. So, I think art has definitely, it has always been something that connects people in some way, and it's a form of communication, and most importantly, it has a huge emotional and intellectual impact on us. So, in this time of social distancing, it's essential to have something that's keeping us together, other than bad news, something that comforts us. And so as an artist, it is essential to reach out to people, and to give solace and to comfort us. And especially when there's a
It's
disaster,
very interesting because
so when there's a disaster like this going on in the world, the importance of music and arts becomes more powerful than ever, I think.
Yes. It's also an interesting question because many people around the globe are currently struggling with staying connected. And you just said that music or art can be a source of or a tool of reaching out to people. How is communication functioning within artists during this hard time? Could you still maintain or your friendships with your artist fellows, or even could you practice music together, or that's something that is impossible right now?
It's not completely impossible, but it's certainly really limited. And I really miss all the rehearsals and jam sessions. And of course, we talk on the phone and on Zoom, but it doesn't substitute the joy of playing together. And
No. Mm-hmm.
so I think this is a perfect time to have some introspection. So, the performed materials that we see in concert halls or theaters or museums is a result of a long intellectual and emotional process. And right now it's a great time to do that for an artist.
Mm-hmm.
So I personally, although I'm rather a student and not a professional musician yet, I use this time to practice as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And and drawing inspiration from other things, not just music, like reading, watching movies, drawing. So it's more like an introspective, introverted experience rather than a communal.
Mm-hmm. That's incredibly interesting, and also for me at least fitting to into the question of the whole topic of this festival, which is Undergrowth, because as you said, you can use this time for personal reflection and working on yourself as an artist, which is also an incredibly important and essential part of the life of an artist, but it's also a part which is usually hidden from the audience. So we, as everyday people or all day people, we are going to the concert we are enjoying it, but we usually don't see the work behind it. So do you think that this time when the artists are very busy with their reflection and their processes of um, maintaining their artistic practice, but also think about what they did before and how they might be acting differently in the future? Do you think that it might have any relation to undergrowth and how you would understand this word?
Yeah, it's an interesting expression or term, this undergrowth thing. Yeah, I don't think that it would necessarily manifest in future performances, but for somebody like me or for other students who are just discovering um, their artistic tools or just discovering um, this great world uh, of music and literature, it will be definitely really useful um, as a source of inspiration, even though the whole situation is crazy and quite hard. This is something that's a chance which is hopefully not going to return. So to me, it feels like if time stopped and
Mm-hmm.
and now we have time to do basically anything. It's like a great experiment.
Mm-hmm. What you are referring to is also greatly playing along the line how many people are starting to do new things as these new limitations in our life are encouraging us to try out new possibilities we can pass the time with. And I would wonder whether you have um, a little recommendation or suggestion for somebody who wasn't very busy with art or with music before, but now as that person has more time, is thinking about to start a new instrument or start listening to music more actively. So do you have any little suggestion how to start this incredible process? You are already like very much far away.
Involved in.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, starting a new instrument is a tough one. mm, but you can try, of course, and there are lots of content out there uh, which can help you to start, uh, at least learn the basics of a new instrument. Or if you are already familiar with an instrument, it's much easier to start a new one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if you want to get to know new music, uh, I think the best way is uh, to check out what your favorites are listening to, or
Mm-hmm.
who are the people uh, with whom these artists have worked with or had a big influence on him. So, for
For
example, now I'm listening to a lot to Bill Frisell's music. He's an American jazz guitarist, and he's an important figure of the New York underground scene. and he's somebody whom I discovered through Paul Motion, who was a great drummer, and he played with the great Bill Evans, who is one of my personal idols, a really great jazz pianist. So in this way, you can get from one person to another very quickly. So the whole thing becomes a big network where you can see, this guy played with that guy, and I really like the music of this guy, so I'm gonna check this one out, and I might like it very much. So that's how I do it.
That's, I think, especially during a period of time when we are feeling isolated from each other, building up new communities by listening to the same music and doing these explorations and discoveries by our ears and by just to get know more and more different art and music, and is an incredible way to find new communities. So for you and for all of our listeners, I wish that we can start listening to each other and listening to each other's music, and through that we can maintain or even build our communities further. Thank you very much for talking to me, and have a very great rest of your day.
Thank you for having me, and have a nice day.